Okay, hi everybody. This is Aaron with Eric Dollard. I apologize for the lighting. This is the best we can do with the internet connection that we have. And so hopefully you can at least hear this pretty good. Today is February 23rd, 2014, and we're going to go through some questions people have posted on Facebook.
Okay.
So we'll just kind of zip through those, answer those, and then I'll get that up on YouTube as soon as I can. Okay, so just starting with the most recent, and I'll go backwards. This is just a comment from somebody, Bo Nana Smoothly. Just a comment to you that you're an inspiration to him. Says, don't ever stop. Let's see, Adam Bull made a comment. This is yesterday or day before yesterday. He's saying, it's not just me. A lot of other people are helping Eric Dollard with his well-being and his work's scientific importance at heart. This comment. Okay, this is somebody that emailed me a question that doesn't have a Facebook account. So the question is, this is from BH, that's the person's initials. Let's see, thank you for all your effort and staying power, and look forward to following your progress in earthquake detection. I do have one question among many, and this has to do with the time in one of your talks, Eric, that you mentioned Tesla's X-rays, possibly not X-rays. Have you developed your ideas on how Tesla achieved this, the mechanisms it works by, and the equipment and setup necessary to repeat it? And would you consider a project like this with support from another fundraising campaign? I believe you would have enormous support for a project like this, along with the world's appreciation also.
Well, Tesla did a pretty good job of describing how to do all of it. And the theory of operation is basically just a matter of putting the stuff together that he had done it with. Making the vacuum tubes would be the most difficult part, because it has to be a very good vacuum. There can't be any gas in there. But the flat spiral coils and other transformers that are people working with on the internet, the transformer is pretty much an engineering reality now. So I don't really even have to contribute much to what's going on the forum, because people have got it figured out and they're making progress, and it's reached the engineering level. It's there.
So all the information is there necessary
Basically
to replicate
there.
it.
The thing with the X-ray operation is you have to use some kind of disruptive discharge, and that involves spark gaps and all kinds of complications. So I have a circuit developed for that. I don't have that equipment anymore. It's gone. I have to build something again that does that. But right now I'm so swamped with the project that I got going, I can't spread this out. I have to find other people that would know how to do it and then instruct them to put it together.
Okay.
But one thing I do point out is I put the receiving end of this out on the internet, and it's known as the cosmic ray detector. And it's very simple, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and there's a lot of experimenting possibilities there, and nobody's picking it up, and which is depressing to me. I put a lot of work into that. So if someone wants to start doing this and doesn't want to have to be fooling around with high voltage impulses and transformers and all that stuff, pursuing the receiving end of it right now is actually much more important scientifically.
And so in the Eric Dollard forum and his thread in Energetic Forum, you basically have all the papers on that cosmic ray detector that people could...
Right, but the problem is it's all scattered through all these dates, so it's virtually impossible for anyone to go in and try to find it. That's the complication that I'm up against. So someone has to extract that material and then put it out in a package. That's the only way at this point.
Okay.
To find it, or put a request out on the Energetic Forum that be done.
Right.
Because there's one guy that kind of picked it up, but he tends to have a habit of going in the wrong directions with projects, and he's kind of spread out. So the question was, a couple of questions with Tesla is how did he detect his cosmic ray, which moved at 50 times the velocity of light? Because that's what's coming out of the transmitting end of the so-called Tesla X-ray that has no relation at all to the X-rays that are used today. In fact, it wasn't harmful to people like the X-rays used today. He exposed himself to massive quantities of it, yet, you know, he lived and died as a normal person with no evidence that it ever happened. Where the same amount of kilowatt hours of today's X-rays would have killed him in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference there.
Right.
So his X-ray tubes were all cold cathode, one terminal. But to do that on the receiving end is just as important, to find out how he detected these radiations from the sun and his theories of the ether and all that. And it doesn't involve a lot of complicated parts.
Okay. Next question. This is on February 20th from Michael Grieger. This is from Sputins.
Mm-hmm.
He says, it was said at some point that when you started all this research, it was because you wanted to prove creation, in quotes. Please expand on this or elaborate. Is the cosmic induction generator an attempt to prove this creative force? And then the other question is, what is, actually, if you want to answer that first, then I'll do the second one.
Well, I wouldn't say, you know, that was the whole foundation for everything I'd done in life. But when I witnessed it on a workbench, well, I got kind of caught up in it. And then, you know, there's this whole creation versus evolution, and I'm not a particular fan of evolution or relativity or any what I would regard as degenerate modernistic theories that only lead to confuse and create weird wars and religions. But the real stuff. So the what was the, I can't read the. So what happened was is at the time that this had occurred, well, then I had to pursue that because my interests in biology are as much as they are in electricity, and I was seeing living shapes, and a galaxy appeared, and by some coincidence at the same time I had been reading Wilhelm Reich's Cosmic Superimposition, and the two things fit together. So it appeared to me that what was going on is the theory of creation was being proven by the fact that cosmic and living forces and shapes were appearing from some, what physicists would call another dimension, or what I call counter space. And that proved to me the theory of creation, and that's why I call the thing the cosmic induction generator, because it ties in with Wilhelm Reich's theory of creation. And the for me, that's kind of my main interest, is I want to do that again. That's what the whole cosmic induction generator is all about, is to make it so that can be duplicated.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you know, it has commercial value in mining or whatever, and it also tests out the telluric transmission stuff because you got two coils back to back, they're not transmitting, so you don't have to worry about what you're doing externally, and then you can test the coils without getting in trouble, burning out your neighbor's house wiring or interfering with submarine communications.
So John Polakowski will be speaking at the 2014 Energy Science and Technology Conference at the end of June, and his talk is on the cosmic induction generator, and he'll also be doing a demonstration.
Now I want to point out that the last time that he came with his coils, we did have something that looked like it could be interpreted that electrical energy was vanishing in the counter space.
Okay. The second question that Sputins has is, what is concatenated resonance in simplistic terms? Why do you stress that the extra coil has no physical connection to the secondary coil, only a capacitive coupling? Is concatenated resonance when two resonant peaks of each coil, secondary and extra, coincide together? Is looking for some type of analogy. Is it like a two-stage rocket where the secondary, the
Well,
first
that's
stage
what
rocket?
it is. It's a two-stage process. And the whole idea is to have two quarter-wave resonances that don't fold over on themselves to half-wave resonance, which basically leaves you right where you started but upside down. That's the difficulty. So, because the pair of coils naturally wants to merge in the one transmission line. To get the extra coil to go off on its own on an additional quarter wave resonance, would create an extremely resonant situation and incredible quantities of magnification. Tesla did not accomplish that in Colorado Springs. I managed to accomplish it on some kind of harmonic at the integratron, but there was so much experimentation involved and there's so little analytical material that can be derived on this stuff. I'm kind of lost how I came about it. It took a lot of trimming and fooling around and months of experimenting to get the extra coil to go into an optimum resonance with the secondary coil, but when I did it, the results were fantastic. So there's going to be a lot of experimental labor and, you know, mathematically understanding of the impedance relations between the secondary coil and the extra coil to make the maximum amount of impedance mismatch so the two can't dump their energy into each other but oscillate in isolated fashion. So that's a, you know, that's kind of a high-level engineering problem, transmission line problem, and you're just going to have to struggle with all the equations and do lots of experiments. There's no quick way to get to it, but that's basically what I've described in that type of resonance, and that's what we're after.
And he's asking, is the purpose of the extra coil to establish artificial grounding to counter space, to provide the secondary coil something to push back against?
Well, any resonant coil does the monopolar transformation, but when you're using a pair of them, and that strengthens the resonance, then it allows you to communicate more energy one way or another, and then also the extra coil does kind of serve as a counter space or an alternate representation point, but these are all things that are not really figured out. That's, you know, these things all have to be learned, and that takes a lot of time and experimenting, you know, both on the mathematical level and the physical level. That's what we're doing, in the process of doing here.
And he's asking, is there any point to using the golden ratio dimensions when designing Tesla apparatus? How does the golden ratio relate to electricity?
The Tesla transformer doesn't really seem to be related to that, but the so-called forms of creation discharges that it creates in the plasma condition are directly related to the golden ratio. So the transformers are manipulating the medium, and the medium itself is what wants to make the golden ratio formations.
Okay, since it may be possible that the center of the Earth contains a central Farnsworth star, primarily made from electrical plasma powered by lines of force from the sun, contained within a liquefied quartz rock medium, this inner star, which is then surrounded by an inner atmosphere or sky, where there are seas and land inside, upside down from our surface point of view? Question mark. Would the telluric waves of Tesla and Alexanderson help to prove that the Earth is indeed hollow, or somehow provide an echolocation-like picture of the inner Earth? How so? God bless, and thank you, Sputins from Australia.
Well, that's a tough subject, but yeah, you know, either seismically or electrically, you know, sounding inside the Earth and measuring the reflections and refractions is the way that you try to learn what's going on inside. The visuals of the hollow Earth concept are pretty well portrayed, very well portrayed in a movie called Journey to the Center of the Earth, and not any counterfeit one later to sanitize it, but the original movie, Journey to the Center of the Earth. You'll have, you know, through the movie, the experience of actually being inside and relating to certain backward situations. It makes it real in your mind. For me, the signals I got on the seismograph didn't seem like from massive world earthquakes like the one in Japan. Didn't resemble anything that would be solid, liquid situations. It just wouldn't respond like that. It would be deadbeat. But the Earth definitely rings like a bell, and after a shock it'll ring like a bell for hours or days, which is understandable, which would indicate the thing would probably be hollow, because that would support that kind of vibration. There could be another ionosphere, or all these strange signals could be radiating from some sun. And I mean, we could speculate forever. It's like talking about UFOs. So that's about as far as I can go with it.
Right. Okay. Let's see, Becky Wilson, comment, absolutely amazing human being you are, Mr. Dollard. I pay my respect for your continuous work. I wish you the best of luck. John Juenger, I'm not pronouncing that name right, but simply
Younger,
fascinating,
maybe?
sir. Maybe younger, Juenger. Simply fascinating, sir. That's a comment. This is from Luis Carlos. Hello, Mr. Dollard. I came across you indirectly and when watching lectures by Terence McKenna. I'm sorry your quest for knowledge has been so arduous and left you with such a cynical look on people. I'm young and inexperienced, but I've seen enough to understand that ignorance is loud and selfish, while knowledge is eye-opening and boundary dissolving, so please don't lose all hope in us simpletons. You've sparked my interest in electricity and have begun learning the basics from an engineer who's helping a lot. My question is, since your work has at times led you into the esoteric, I'm curious as to what your opinion is regarding to natural hallucinogens. More specifically, how when in these altered states, many people experience out-of-body moments, acoustic and visual synthesis, epiphanies, etc. That with the fact that ancient man, like the Egyptians, lived with much higher awareness to the cyclical nature of life in the universe, hallucinogens to them were a normal part of life and in many ways very spiritual, etc. Do you think if unbiased scientific research in fields such as these that we conducted, we could perhaps shine some light, pun intended, on obscure subjects such as the ether, consciousness, etc.?
Well, I'm no expert on hallucinogens and their effect on the body, so it's kind of hard for me to say, but my understanding is they dissolve the blockages that prevent you from seeing or experience what's going on around you in reality. That's the purpose for it. So they remove the crud, they're like the windshield wipers. Yeah, I actually was able to experience situations without the use of any hallucinogens at all like that, where the subconscious and the conscious, everything just merged. Usually in some kind of detailed job in the shipyard down there in some lower deck, is I would all of a sudden I would kind of go into like a dream state. I can't describe it, but it was probably like something you would experience on a hallucinogen, but it was just the, how would you say, the way my psychology was working in the course of doing work and the environment and all that, that I experienced those things. In fact, I used to try to induce it when I was a kid with the use of music, and I was quite successful in my early high school years. To strictly just use music and concentration to create a hallucinogenic, highly hallucinogenic state.
Okay, next comment or question is on February 18th by Peter K. Campbell. Hi, Peter. Congratulations on getting the campaign goal, Eric. By the way, while listening to our interview on the Smart Scarecrow show with Gary Hendershot a couple weeks ago, some of the images left me on the reminded me of fencing. Have you considered that for secondary stations for earthquake detection, you might be able to run the overground wire along the fence lines of existing farms? I'm sure there'd be quite a few farmers out there with miles of fence line that wouldn't mind you stringing some wires along them. Plus that would save you cost in post-implanting and land. Thanks.
The problem is the fence interferes with the propagation of the system, because you have metal posts and metal wire, and it just basically shorts the whole path right out. So we were looking at that possibility on some cattle land. It'd have to be all wooden fence posts, and the fence would have to be actually part of the structure, because all loose, rusty barbed wire connections and all that will intermodulate all your lightning and earthquake and Navy signals and broadcast stations, and there'll be all this spurious signals being generated by it, depending upon weather conditions and what have you. So if it was all fence posts, it would be wooden fence posts, it would be possible, and then the wire on the fence would have to be part of the antenna. And iron wire is not the best propagating medium for wideband signals. It tends to distort them.
Okay. Matt Kuntz, Kuntz, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. February 17th. I appreciate your lectures on YouTube. Every time I watch one, I learn something new that I've never heard anywhere else. Rock on. Okay. From Gil Bottenberg, February 17th. Hi, I'd like to request a question for Eric. Namely, in 1905, Max Planck came up with the discovery, as opposed to Einstein's theory, that time-space energy is quantized, so-called Planck units of time, space, time, energy, mass. All those Discovery Channel scientists ever talk about is particles in space, but what I want to hear about is how space-time is a unitary particle. Does nothing need to be formatted like a hard disk for it to become a momentary location in space? That sort of stuff, that sort of thing. Thanks in advance. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good stuff.
Well, that's a complicated subject, so I've written enough on it to basically explain, step by step how I came about with my unit called the Planck. That's an important part of my electromagnetic, or Steinmetz's electromagnetic theory. It was his idea to come up with that basic dimensional relationship, even though he never named it anything. He pointed out that that was the only real thing in electricity, and everything else were just mathematical abstractions. So I took it farther. What I'm talking about, physicists would not comprehend. In fact, not only would they not comprehend, but they would try to figure out a way to do something nasty to you. So I don't know what to say. It's not a popular subject. Einstein owns it now. What a Planck is or what is called Planck's constant by them, is it's a union between a 1 unit of magnetism and 1 unit of dielectricity, which produces 1 unit of electromagnetism. And because all electrostatic lines of force are Faraday tubes and they all have the same size, that causes it to be quantified, or in a quantum value. So you only can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tubes. You can't break them in half. And then the Einsteiners added their own thing. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that because I can't build any equipment out of it that works.
Okay, this is from Daniel Troy. This is posted February 16th. He says on the, I guess, February 9th, okay, I wrote this to Aaron via private message. I've tried to ask Eric a few times in public to answer a question regarding electrical charge potentials and the existence of 2 basic electric energy forms, but it seems that my question is not getting through. Okay, let's see, well, what's the question? The fact that there are 2 polar opposite electrical energies and not the electron in counter space needs to be addressed in a public manner and the math corrected, then we can move forward. Okay, what is your opinion on Maxwell himself mentions both negative and positive electrical energy. Today all anyone ever uses in math is negative values, and as we know, oscillating a negative against a mirror image of itself develops an annihilation charge, common but erroneously termed a positron. If real charge was used, but with a positive sign, I think some very interesting results would be found. In fact, I know they would. I don't know, any comment?
Well, I can't, that's kind of out of my area about positrons and, and all that. So I don't know exactly what to say and what is exactly meant by positive and negative energy. He's talking about growth or decay, or if there's 2 different dimensions for energy, I can't really say from what's there much of anything.
Let's see. Okay, this is from Daniel Martin Gutfeld, February 11th. Sorry if this is coming out of left field. I just recently watched a few videos for the umpteenth time. One is Mr. Dollards on the sun being hollow. I love it, and I somewhat share that sentiment. The other consisted of a cup of coffee with milk being added to it. Swirling the glass creates a vortex with a hole in the middle. That hole would be representative of, say, a black hole in the center of a galaxy. Now, in regards to the aforementioned aspects and the somewhat shared sentiment of the sun being hollow in the vortex, has anyone proposed such a theory as a sun being filled with dark matter? Therefore, the sun would not necessarily be hollow, but rather matter would be absent from the inside of the sun. Perhaps something to think upon. Thank you for your time, and God bless you. Sincerely, a fellow bearded hermit.
Well, I don't know what to say about dark matter or any of that, so I don't, those theories aren't part of my theories.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really speak on that matter.
For anybody watching this video that's posted in YouTube that hasn't seen anything on your mention of the hollow sun type of ideas, do you want to mention a minute on?
Well, I arrived at that because when I studied the sun for 4 years at Sonoma State University, I used to get pictures of the sun sent by, I forget what government agency used to do that. They stopped doing all that. You can't get pictures of anything or nothing from these people anymore. But back then, I had a picture of the sun for every day in all different wavelengths of light and in terms of magnetic fields. And after a while, you could just see that the sun's obviously hollow. You can see it, that it's hollow. Mm-hmm. And the so-called lumination, it just appears as little like corpuscles moving around on the surface. And then when there's a sunspot, then it's dark, and the surface is blown away by the magnetic hurricane on the sun, the sunspot pair. And then once all the little glowing things are pushed away, then it's all black.
So you're actually looking inside.
Yeah, and the space around all these things is black. And then you can't see the sun in outer space anyway. So unless there's something to make the conversion so that you can see the light emitted from these corpuscles, because it's not light, it's something else until it hits the Earth's atmosphere or some object, well, now all the complications have expanded, so that's why it's just a theory. Mm-hmm. But it seems that way, and it would make sense that it would be like that. Mm-hmm. From a biological standpoint. But if I look at it as a biological organism or other microorganisms that I've had experience with, they tend to form those hollow shapes with the entities in some kind of geometric pattern in a sphere. So it would make sense from the organic standpoint.
Okay, let's see. Made manifest. This is just a
some kind of
like
musical scales.
Yeah, associated with the zodiac.
Okay.
Kind of
there's 12 divisions.
It's kind of an interesting
Yeah.
diagram. I haven't seen that one before.
Yeah, I'd like to see that in some way it was more seeable. But not right now. Maybe you can save that.
Let's see. Okay. Okay, this is by Daniel Troy again, January 29th. He's about 27 minutes into one of these videos, that one of your lectures, I think. You just finished describing the basics of electric charge and its origins and observations of amber charged via friction from fur with relation to Maxwell's equations, a charge known as resonance energy associated with negative potential. I wonder what of the other polarity of electric charge formed via friction of silk upon glass that was termed vitreous energy and was referenced by Maxwell in his papers as the opposite energy or positive charge. Would that not account for the problems with the math that Heaviside corrected?
Well, you're starting to get more into the ether stuff. J.J. Thomson was the one that picked a lot of that up. The old electrostatic concepts of resonance, as in resin, like plant resins, and then vitreous, like glass, or some kind of something like that. And the fact that each one did not generate different energies, it generated a different charge. one was a positive charge and one was a negative charge, because the electricity that was bound inside the molecules got pulled out by the resinous or vitreous process of moving the substances with relation to each other. That's why it's called frictional electricity, but it wasn't the friction so much, it was the relative movement. But that gets back into the primordial theories, and it doesn't really involve much in the engineering end of the deal.
Okay. Okay, this is from Gail Jones on January 29th. This is in relation to the location of the seismic project on government land. Gail Jones says, I'm very excited with regards to this project, but in light of the fact that it is obvious to those who are conscious today that the U.S. government is not to be trusted. If they were truly interested in assisting you, they would also be funding your project. I suspect they will allow you to complete the POP project, but ultimately anything on their land will belong to them. With your expertise regarding free energy, you are a real threat to the oil industry, the 1% that rule the world. You must appreciate the dangerous position you're in. Proceed with caution, my friend. My prayers are with you.
Well, it's not quite that bad, so
Yeah, and not all agencies are hostile to things moving forward.
anything's possible in God's infinity. It all depends on how you want to make it happen.
Let's see. These are just some old Borderland demos that you did that are being posted here. Okay, this is a comment from Dean Sargent on January 22nd. One question that I'm sure, okay, he says, Eric Dollard, you are a legend. One question that I'm sure is simple. Does the system triangulate where the earthquake is supposed to hit? Do the aerials give a direction for the source of the signal, or are they unidirectional when receiving? For the seismic antennas.
Well, the directivity still has to be determined, but in general, the way that they're set up, they should be omnidirectional, so you have to have more than one site, and then you do a phase comparison to determine where the signal is going to be. So the first site no longer exists. So the second site's starting over again, which means then another site will have to be made, and these things are all in the making. It's going to be hard enough to get the first one together. And then the problem is most of the territory that the San Andreas Fault is in is all occupied territory, and you can't do anything like this there. It's forbidden by the social and political structure in that area. So anyway, whoever can figure out a way to get that through that mire, good luck.
This is Shiva Mayuchi, January 22nd. Hi, I'm the author and owner of anti-relativity.com. I'd like to connect with you and perhaps collaborate. So I've been onto his website. Looks put together pretty good. I emailed, didn't hear back, but I'll let you know.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, well I think that pretty much kind of wraps up most of the questions since the last time we did a answer session on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So we're going backwards.
Yeah, so if you're watching this right now, it was maybe a month and a half ago, 6 to 8 weeks ago, I think. Eric and I talked on the phone, and I asked him questions over the phone that were posted in Facebook, and we got caught up on those. So this one, this pretty much wraps it up. We're kind of getting back to the time frame of the last call. So anyway, thanks for watching, and make sure to go to, if you're watching this, go to ericpdollard.com, and you can sign up for his announcement list, Eric's books and videos, Wireless Giant of the Pacific, the Lone Pine Writings, the 4-quadrant representation of electricity. All those are available on ericpdollard.com, and if you purchase any books or videos from Eric's website, 70% of the proceeds will go to EPD Labs Incorporated, which is Eric's nonprofit organization. It is a charitable nonprofit, tax deductible. It's a registered 501c3 with the state of Nevada. Also on ericpdollard.com, at the top left, there's an address where if you want to write Eric a personal letter, he'll do his best to write you back when he gets a chance. The address is on there. There's also a PayPal button. If you want to make any kind of donation to EPD Labs, you can use that PayPal link. And there's other information if you actually want to send checks or money orders to EPD Labs. The address is on there. And make sure to join the announcement list and stay tuned for more stuff coming out.
Yeah.
And at the end of June, June 20, I don't know if it's 27th, 28th, and 29th, or 28th, 29th, and 30th, but it's the last weekend in June of 2014. Eric is going to be presenting at the 2014 Energy Science and Technology Conference. Eric's talk will be on the extraluminal transmission systems of Tesla and Alexanderson. Not only is there going to be a talk, there's also going to be some demonstrations using the coils that John Polakowski and Mark McKay have. So it'll be some different things that you'll be able to see at the conference. For information at the conference, you can go to ericpdollard.com, and at the very top of that page is a banner for the conference. You can click on that. You can read Eric's bio. You can look at a brief description of his talk and kind of look at the schedule and where the conference is going to be at. It'll be in Hayden, Idaho, which is it's about an hour from Spokane, Washington, or at least the Spokane International Airport. You can go directly to the conference page by going to EnergyScienceConference.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Yep.
Okay, hi everybody, this is Aaron with Eric Dollard. I apologize for the lighting. This is the best we can do with the internet connection that we have. And so hopefully you can at least hear this pretty good. Today is February 23rd, 2014, and we're going to go through some questions people have posted on Facebook.
Okay.
So we'll just kind of zip through those, answer those, and then I'll get that up on YouTube as soon as I can. Okay, so just starting with the most recent, I'll go backwards. This is just a comment from somebody, Bo Nana Smoothly. Just a comment to you that you're an inspiration to him. Says, don't ever stop. Let's see, Adam Bull made a comment. This is yesterday or day before yesterday. He's saying it's not...
Does that, but right now I'm so swamped with the project that I got going, I can't spread this out. I have to find other people that would know how to do it and then instruct them to put it together.
Okay.
But one thing I did point out is I put the receiving end of this out on the internet, and it's known as the cosmic ray detector. And it's very simple, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and there's a lot of experimenting possibilities there, and nobody's picking it up. And which is depressing to me. I put a lot of work into that. So if someone wants to start doing this and doesn't want to have to be fooling around with high voltage impulses and transformers and all that stuff, pursuing the receiving end of it right now is actually much more important scientifically.
And so in the Eric Dollard forum and his thread in Energetic Forum, you basically have all the papers on that cosmic ray detector that people can...
Right, but the problem is it's all scattered through all these dates, so it's virtually impossible for anyone to go in and try to find it. That's the complication that I'm up against. So someone has to extract that material and then put it out in a package. That's the only way at this point.
Okay.
To find it, or put a request out on the Energetic Forum that be done.
Right.
Because there's one guy that kind of picked it up, but he tends to have a habit of going in the wrong directions with projects, and he's kind of spread out. So, the question was, a couple of questions with Tesla is how did he detect his cosmic ray, which moved at 50 times the velocity of light? Because that's what's coming out of the transmitting end of the so-called Tesla X-ray that has no relation at all to the X-rays that are used today. In fact, it wasn't harmful to people like the X-rays used today. He exposed himself to massive quantities of it, yet, he lived and died.
World's appreciation also.
Well, Tesla did a pretty good job of describing how to do all of it. And the theory of operation is basically just a matter of putting the stuff together that he had done it with. Making the vacuum tubes would be the most difficult part, because it has to be a very good vacuum. There can't be any gas in there. But the flat spiral coils and other transformers that are people working with on the internet, The transformer is pretty much an engineering reality now. So I don't really even have to contribute much to what's going on the forum, because people have got it figured out and they're making progress, and it's reached the engineering level. It's there.
So all the information is there necessary to
Basically
replicate
there.
it.
The thing with the X-ray operation is you have to use some kind of disruptive discharge, and that involves spark gaps and all kinds of complications. So I have a circuit developed for that. I don't have that equipment anymore. It's gone. I have to build something again that does.
Not just me, a lot of other people are helping Eric Dollard with his well-being and his work's scientific importance at heart. Let's comment. Okay, this is somebody that emailed me a question that doesn't have a Facebook account. So the question is, this is from BH, that's the person's initials. Let's see, thank you for all your effort and staying power, and look forward to following your progress in earthquake detection. I do have one question among many, and this has to do with the time in one of your talks, Eric, that you mentioned Tesla's X-rays, possibly not X-rays. Have you developed your ideas on how Tesla achieved this, the mechanisms it works by, and the equipment and setup necessary to repeat it? And would you consider a project like this with support from another fundraising campaign? I believe you would have enormous support for a project like this, along with the